this work is fascinating to me because it's not like a channeled experience. It's not like somebody say, okay, I channeled this information and here's my book, which is fine if that's what, or it's not like, here's one or two people's experience, like, Many Lives, Many Masters, Brian Weiss. Isn't that just about one person's experience? It's not one person's experience. It's not five people's experiences. It's not somebody's channeled information. This is thousands and thousands of people who, over 20 years, if not 30 years, if not the last 55 years of research, this is the experience people are having. And it's extraordinary in Life Between Lives. And this is so fascinating, is because not only can you go to that healing place where you can create healing around issues known and unknown, but you can go to that current life selection room and discover more about this life, your purpose, your mission, your ultimate goals. Why this family? Many of us have had traumatic upbringings or struggle with abuse. Why? Is there some learning around that? And it can be quite mind twisty of like, well, did I, agree to this? Did I set this up in advance? Am I here to learn? And it can be.
Hello, dear listener. This is Kevin Pennell. Welcome to episode 147 of Toward a Better Life. Thanks again for tuning in. In today's world, there truly is a need to seek some balance, harmony, compassion, and kindness on so many different levels, personally, culturally, spiritually, to name some of them. But it begins with each one of us as an individual, and that's what I like to share on the podcast from around the world, seeking others of the same spirit, heart, and mind. This is a platform to help us find our authentic self, a pathway to begin and continue our journey to wholeness and harmony, and yes, authenticity, not only for ourselves, but that the generation to come may also find their own way to living genuinely better lives. Please subscribe to the program if you haven't done so already through your favorite podcast platform, and keep following us for weekly magical insights into earth-based spirituality, self-development, and self-care. Also, remember to support the program by leaving a review on Apple and Spotify podcast. It only takes a moment to leave a review. I also offer the opportunity to you to share your prose, music, poetry, or storytelling on the program. Do visit my website, towardabetterlife.com, where you can contact me to learn more about a free discovery call. And that helps you find and discover your pathway that leads toward a better life. The website also offers prior episodes, learning opportunities, and services that I offer outside the podcast, like holistic health consultations, shamanic work, Reiki, and hypnotherapy. Plus, a few accessories are there to assist you on your own journey. Contact me through my website or send inquiries to me, Kevin, at towardabetterlife.com. On with the focus of the program for this week. You may have heard me talk a little bit about, in previous episodes, about hypnotherapy. There are so many opportunities offered through this modality of hypnotherapy, like past life regression, life between lives, overcoming and healing from trauma, and clinical approaches as well. An intriguing exploration of hypnotherapy delves into the spiritual insights that may be gained through sessions that include deeper understandings of ourselves, understanding our purpose, embracing our true self. Craig Meriwether is my guest on this week's show. Craig is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, medical hypnosis specialist, and author of the Past Lives Guidebook. He also is a founder of Sacred Mystery Hypnotherapy, where he guides clients through powerful spiritual healing journeys such as past life regression, life between lives regression, spirit guide connection, and ancestral healing. In Craig's work, he's helped clients uncover and heal unresolved trauma from past lives. People connect with their spirit guides for clarity and direction. Individuals release ancestral patterns and generational wounds. Seekers access the life between lives spirit world for profound insights. Clients reconnect with their soul's purpose and mission. In this magical episode, Craig is going to be sharing how these techniques can help people heal emotionally, physically, and spiritually, often in ways that traditional approaches just can't seem to reach. He offers a grounded, practical explanation on how spiritual hypnotherapy works, along with some insightful and inspiring real world stories from his practice. Please do welcome Craig Meriwether to this week's episode, The Spiritual Magic of Hypnotherapy. And on today's episode, I want to welcome Craig Meriwether to the program. Craig, good to have you on Toward About a Life. Tell us where you are and how are you doing?
Kevin, I am doing fantastic. I am in Flagstaff, Arizona. It's a beautiful, chilly day. We're up in the mountains at 7,000 feet. So in a month or so when we're recording this, we'll probably have some snow. And I'll be outside shoveling in my snow gear. But yeah, it's a beautiful day today and doing well.
So, Craig, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and we can kind of go from there. Craig, you're a hypnotherapist.
That's why I was excited to talk with you, Kevin, because I know you do hypnotherapy and it's always fun to talk shop and go a little deeper
Hmm.
with somebody who kind of understands what's going on and have a deeper conversation around that. I have been working as a clinical hypnotherapist for about a decade now, and I love that work. But really, the reason why I wanted to get more into this work of tapping into the subconscious mind is the more spiritual aspect of it.
Hmm.
And spirituality has always been fascinating to me, even as a kid growing up in the Episcopal Church. And which, if you don't know that brand of Christianity, is kind of Catholicism light, so it has the robes and the candles and all that, the Eucharist and all that. And then I really like that those rituals and that ceremony. I
Hmm.
also went to a Baptist school, Baptist run school from sixth grade to 12th grade. And so, very, very much steeped in the Christian tradition. But I really like that ceremony. I like the rituals of it all. And I think that really helped focus my interest
Mm.
in learning more about spirituality. Because when I went to UC Santa Cruz to study there, it opened my mind. This is early 90s.
Mm.
I lived in San Diego and moved up to Santa Cruz and met all sorts of people, all sorts of different kind of classes you could take there, dance classes, music classes, all sorts of different cultures represented there. You take martial arts, you can do meditation. I know you can do that nowadays, but back then there wasn't, at least in San Diego, it was a little bit harder to find unless you were in that community. It was a little harder to
Hmm.
find those festivals and things like that. If you didn't notice the ad or the little mention in the newspaper, you just kind of missed it. Uh, and so that opened me up in this small little town. It was just everywhere. And when you're, getting to know another culture, spirituality, of course, is a part of that.
Hmm.
And that opened my mind up to a lot of different philosophies and theories and practices that I was unaware of
Mm.
because of my upbringing in the Episcopal Church and the Baptist Church. And of course, a lot of these pretty much, and I'm being general, I don't mean to be so broad about this statement, but many, many cultures and societies, including Europe, back in the day, had some sort of theory or philosophy around reincarnation
Hmm.
and past lives.
Hmm.
It's really this kind of modern Western culture, especially maybe America. Again, I know that's a broad statement, but that has kind of been washed out.
Yep.
And as we've maybe gone more in the scientific route, since you can't quote unquote prove it as of yet, or maybe lately we have been seeing more signs of what it may mean to pass in this body and move our consciousness somewhere else. At least kind of back in the day, maybe the 1700s, 1800s, that, was kind of washed away, I think, as people tried to want to become more a part of the American society.
Mm.
And but it fascinated me to learn about this. And one of the things that helped me very much in my struggles with anxiety and depression and things I was going through was hypnotherapy. A
Hmm.
lot of the books I was reading, the personal growth kind of books, always seem to mention hypnotherapy as a way to gain back control. It's not taking away control, but it's giving you back control. You're already out of control. If you're dealing with anxiety, if you're dealing with depression, anger, you're already out of control. Your
Mm.
body is literally turning on the stress response, maybe by triggers that you are unaware of. You're out of control. And so hypnotherapy is a way to use your subconscious mind, the power of your subconscious mind, to create healing, to create resolution around issues. And just like your subconscious mind knows, if you got a cut on your finger, if you have a
Yep.
scrape on your knee, you don't have to think about it. You may not even notice that somebody may point, you got a scrape on your arm there. What happened there? I don't know. But there's a scab there. You don't have to think about it. Your subconscious mind knows what to do. It's just that it may be using protocols and programs that were set up a long time ago to help protect you. And that's why I may be holding on to this stuff. Well, you can change the programming. And that's what hypnotherapy was all about. But it's also going a little deeper. Hypnotherapy is a great way to access some of these spiritual states. Certainly
Yep.
things like ayahuasca and maybe even to a certain extent LSD and other tools like that are helpful. But it's not something I was able to kind of with my medical history and my issues was able to really partake in. And so I needed another way, a deeper way. Meditation's okay. Meditation is great, but it was really moving into the state with guidance that helped me in a more spiritual way after kind of more clinical setting of dealing with present day stuff. Then it was fun to explore, and I was so fascinated. I loved it so much. I was reading about, studying about it. I've kind of decided to pivot later in life and do this as my way of giving back, my career, I guess. And I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. I'm right next door to Sedona,
Mhm.
Arizona. Many people will know that as a city of vortex and spirituality. And when I started, it was very hard to get attention uh, away from Sedona and jump up and down and wave and say, yeah, but I also do past life regression too. And sort of being like the city of Henderson next to Las Vegas. It's like, well, why go to Henderson when you can go to Las Vegas? So I kind of focused more on the clinical side, which has been very rewarding. It's a joyful way to make a living to help people out that way. But with with the issues surrounding COVID, so many, whether it's talk therapy or hypnotherapy or life coaching or relationship counseling or doctor's appointments, it all went to Zoom, not unlike what we're doing here, Kevin, obviously.
Yep.
And and it works so well. Even the research shows that Zoom sessions work not only as well as in person, but Zoom sessions actually may work better than in person, according to research, because people feel relaxed, comfortable, they feel safe in their own homes. They don't have to drive across town or to another city in order to do this work. And so that opened up my ability to see, oh, I don't have to compete with Sedona anymore. I have the world, basically, like all
Mhm.
of us do, uh, to to get to work with. And so I kind of started branching off into more, spiritual side of this work. Just, mentioned before, we released a book, Past Lives Guidebook,
Mm.
and to kind of get more information about it out there. I was really interested in studying more about past lives, about the science, about the biology, what's going on in the brain, what the science about time and memory and consciousness and what's going on with remote viewing and all this kind of stuff that interests me. Started researching and well, there's a chapter, there's a chapter, there's a chapter, and all of a sudden here's a book. So just kind of pivoted here and there as the world changed and it kind of opened up the ability to do this.
I think there's much to be said for the way philosophically, spiritually, and perhaps in other ways as well. But the world seems to be shifting
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
The world seems to be more open to some of the older ways. I've talked about that on the program a few times. We've had folks from Druidry, from pagan backgrounds, and other hypnotherapists, and there just seems to be a movement toward people that are, or toward ways that are more embracing the natural world, embracing the natural flow, embracing what in some circles you would call the wheel of life, things of
Mhm.
that nature. And you're able to see how the different parts of the world can work within me And for me, when I started work, and we talked before we began recording about Michael Newton, to me
Yes.
that was an eye opener in and of itself. And I read that I read his first book before I
Mhm.
became a hypnotherapist. And it wasn't until, I don't know, 2 or 3 years later, I went in for and went ahead and got my certification in hypnotherapy. And I started to work with life between lives therapy, and that's a mind blower.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. If people think that past life regression work is something, wait until you do life between lives and you find out, oh, wait a minute, now I know why I have
Yeah.
blank, 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 blank.
Yeah.
You know?
It's pretty extraordinary. Yeah, Michael Newton did extraordinary work, and if people aren't familiar with Michael Newton, he passed away in 2011, I believe.
Mm,
But back in 1969, Dr. Michael Newton, a psychotherapist, was working with somebody and wanting to regress him back to childhood to deal with some issues, to resolve some hurt and some pain,
hmm.
some trauma this gentleman was going through. Wanted to regress him back to childhood to work with that situation. Well, the guy kept going. He went past childhood. He went past being a baby. He went past in utero, and he
Yep.
went to this life between lives, the spirit world, this soul realm, whatever you want to call it, where we're not with the human body, but we're between incarnations here on Earth. And Michael Newton was fascinated by this, that this could even be possible. And being a scientist, being a researcher, being just a human being with curiosity, he wanted to see if he could do it again. And so he started working with people, seeing if he could create some sort of protocol to get people within their subconscious, their super conscious level of mind, their higher self, to go back to this life between lives, is what he called it, this spirit world. And he was able to do it again and again. And as he was working with people in the early 70s, what he realized is people were having similar experiences. And so people are having similar experiences, even though it's the 1970s, there's no cell phones, there's no internet, there's no way to just kind of communicate with each other on Reddit or whatever, Substack or whatever the thing is, WhatsApp. You can't communicate like that with people. And so all these people from around the country of different ages, of different cultures, different backgrounds, are having similar experiences when he takes them up into the soul world. So he starts investigating that. And he's doing these 3 4 hour long sessions of conversing with people, having talking with people, interviewing them while they're in this trance state, experiencing this soul world. He does that through the 70s, he does that through the 80s. So he's got about 20 years of research of thousands of people. And that's when he writes that book, Journey of Souls.
Yep.
Comes out in 1992. He then does another 10 years worth of research with thousands of more people. He releases his second book, which seems to be like twice as long as the first book, called Destiny of Souls. That's
Yep.
volume two. And since then, he started the Michael Newton Institute, which is still around. They just released a book last year or the year before.
Oh, really?
Still doing, yeah, they're still doing research. They're still out there doing workshops and classes. And this work is fascinating to me because it's not like a channeled experience. It's not like somebody say, okay, I channeled this information and here's my book, which is fine if that's what, or it's not like, here's one or two people's experience, like, many lives, many masters, Brian Weiss. Isn't that just about one person's experience? It's not one person's experience. It's not five people's experiences. It's not somebody's channeled information. This is thousands and thousands of people who, over 20 years, if not 30 years, if not the last 55 years of research, this is the experience people are having. And it's extraordinary. It's fascinating. And it certainly has influenced me so much that I use a lot of his protocol, a lot of his um, even questions that he
Michael.
asks.
Michael Newton's.
Yeah, Michael Newton, just
Yeah.
from trainings I've done with the Michael Newton Institute. Unfortunately, I never got to meet him personally, but with the Michael Newton Institute and his, but seeing old videos of him and things like that, it's fascinating to certainly people can bring their own questions, as
Yep.
I'm sure you experienced, Kevin. It's like, man, please bring me your questions, the people you want to know more about. Here's the list, but hey, here's some other amazing questions, including while you're in that life between lives. And this is why it's so fascinating, is because not only can you go to that healing place where you can create healing around issues known and unknown, but you can go to that current life selection room, is what he calls it,
Hmm.
and discover more about this life, your purpose, your mission, your ultimate goals. Why this family? Many of us have had traumatic upbringings or struggle with abuse. Why?
Yeah.
Is there some learning around that? And it can be quite mind twisty of like, well, did I, agree to this? Did I set this up in
Yeah.
advance? Am I here to learn? And it can be. It doesn't mean people don't belong in jail. It doesn't mean that you don't need protective orders against people. It doesn't right wrongs, but understanding can come, and that
Yeah.
can bring resolution to a lot of the hurt and pain. It doesn't make the wrong go away, but it can release a lot of that hurt and pain, and understanding why your mother is the way she is.
Yeah.
And who do you have to be and what do you have to learn in order to deal with that? Your father, why is he the way that he is? And what do you have to learn from that? And how do you need to be in the world because your father is the way they are? So it's extraordinary, like you mentioned at the beginning. Oh, it's an extraordinary state to move into, and the information you can gather from it's extraordinary.
Yeah. And there's similarities. I find this in not only philosophies, but others as well, where you have what I like to think about as the common threads that you find throughout pretty much any cultural uh, movements or any cultural activities that you might be involved in, whether it's we could call it trance work, we could call it shamanic journeying, we can refer to the spirit world, we can talk about all these different things, and yet they're so similar, they're pretty much the same. And you
Yeah.
start to think about, I'm going to even say J.R.R. Tolkien when you think about
Yep.
the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world.
Yeah.
And goodness gracious, I mean, you can really go to town on stuff like that. I just, I've done that recently where I was sharing about, we have the upper world in shamanic work. You think about the upper world as the world of teaching, and you think also sometimes the upper world is a place of healing. You can have the middle world to move through and do things that need to be done pretty much where we are. And it's just fascinating that you can find that all these different things are very similar, and at the same time realizing this isn't something new. This isn't a new phenomena. It's been around for millennia. We're
Yeah.
just figuring it out,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and that's what fascinates me about something like Tolkien, and there, of course, many, many, many other writers. But you look at a work of sheer genius like that, and wondering, and I don't know much about Tolkien. Maybe there's biographies about him that explain his writing process, but did he have that all figured out? Did
Hmm.
he have 3x5 cards all over his wall with string attached, and or did he just download it and just start writing? And so by the third book, he's just like, oh, that matches that thing in the first book. Oh, I didn't even know that. Or
Yeah.
did he have it all planned out? And that stuff fascinates me, especially, well, look, in more modern times with Harry Potter, she just wrote the first book. And I don't know that she had 8 books in her head when she was just in a cafe, unemployed or whatever that whole situation was, just trying to write a book. And certainly there are other magical school young teen books out there. Why did that one capture everybody's attention to the point where they needed 8 other books or 7 other
Mhm.
books or whatever it is? And did she have it all planned out? The big thing in Star Wars, the original one, the 1977 now they call it the New Hope. There's a trivia question for you. It was just called Star Wars when it came out,
Yeah.
but now they call it New Hope.
Hmm.
Luke Skywalker kiss, big old romantic kiss with Leia, and then nobody thought that movie was going to do well. They thought it was going to tank. They didn't give him
Yeah.
any marketing budget. That was the whole thing. It was like, we're not marketing this. He's like, well, I'll take over the marketing, and that's why he got all the money for the toys and the T-shirts and the towels, and because they thought it was going to tank. And so, and then we find in the second movie, not to spoil this for anybody, but it's a 40-year-old movie, um, that they're brother and sister.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, maybe he didn't think that all the way through until he realized he could make more. But did Tolkien do it like that? Or
No.
is he just downloading this
Or
extraordinary information about the different realms? Because that's a lot to plan out and a lot to
it
think about.
is. And
You
I
know?
think sometimes, particularly when I write, I've mentioned this many times that I call it my magic time
Mm.
is anywhere from I'm going to say 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning up until about 6, 7, or 8 o'clock. After that, I just kind of go into left brain
Yeah.
just just to maintain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and yet, when I was writing the book, my first book, I wrote back to my editor at one point after she sent me back the rewrites or the editing for a chapter, and I said, "Well, this doesn't look like. I mean, there's only like three or four things that are corrected in this. I don't get it." And honestly, I don't know that I wrote this.
Yeah.
And she says, "You did write it." And it occurred to me then, almost along the same lines you said, did they think about this stuff ahead of time? I think that what can happen is when we get into a really creative state, and within the Druid tradition, we talk about the bards, the ovates, and the Druids, and the bards are the ones that's the creative side. And there's not a hierarchy. That's just another phase. It's just another a piece. It would be like a a three-piece circle. You know how they all
Yeah.
interchange with each other. But the bardic part, that's the creative side. And I can't explain where some of this stuff comes from. All I can tell you is I call them my guides and my helpers, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're the ones that are there feeding us this information. And where is that coming from, Craig?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
next
I
piece. Yeah,
actually I write about that in the book, the Past Lives Guidebook. There's a
yeah.
little section about downloading this information. You know, even uh, Vincent van Gogh would say, I dream my painting and then I paint my dream."
Mm,
Or,
yeah.
Paul McCartney famously woke up with the entirety of the song, well, not the lyrics, but the melody of Yesterday, one of the
Mm,
most popular songs of all time,
yeah.
already formulated as he woke up. And while that's interesting with artists doing that, I have a long section of, well, here's some scientific discoveries that came about because of dreams, including like the double helix
Hmm.
for DNA and all sorts of different things that scientists have come out and said, oh, yeah, I just dreamt that. And then I started researching it to see if it was true.
Yeah.
It is fascinating to where it, but it goes even to um, spontaneous savant syndrome,
Yeah.
where there's these handful of cases, and maybe there's more, they just haven't been recorded. But a handful of cases of people getting traumatic brain injury due to an accident or something, and waking up from maybe a coma with an entirely new skill or talent. There's one kid, he got beamed in the head with a baseball and woke up and could speak Spanish fluently, even though he'd never taken Spanish. He didn't know Spanish. His parents didn't know Spanish. Uh, Somebody else, I forget, he was in a car accident, I believe, woke up from a coma and could play the violin like a virtuoso, never played before. It's almost like this idea of when you practice something, you practice the piano, you practice martial arts or dance. They call it muscle memory. Oh, you're practicing muscle memory. Well, muscles don't have memory. What the theory is that you're strengthening the connection to the neural pathways for that task. That's like walking. Watch a little kid, they're 12 months old or whatever, learning to walk. They're stumbling, they're falling over, all this weight distribution and momentum. But once those neurons form and connect to each other and grow stronger and the communication's faster, now we just walk. We don't have to think about it, we just walk. Well, and that's where practice around martial arts or the violin or piano or something, same situation, or even a foreign language. So how is it possible someone gets beamed in the head with a baseball and all of a sudden they can have that talent or that skill almost like dropped into it? And one theory is like, well, we're not strengthening the neural pathways for that skill. We're strengthening the antenna for that communication. And it's sort of like driving your car down the road and you hit a pothole and all of a sudden the radio dial turns to a different station. Well, that's what they're saying. Well, you get beamed in the head or have an accident, and in these rare occasions, it creates a signal to pull in new information.
Hmm.
So when you're practicing something, the piano, martial arts, something like that, you're not strengthening that skill within the brain. You're strengthening the antenna, so to speak, of those neural pathways to pull that skill in from outside of you. So consciousness is non-local. It's not held within the brain, but the brain is a receiver transmitter of information. And you're just strengthening the because again, it's like, well, if it's happened once or twice, I mean, you don't need 99 cases of this to prove it right. It's sort of like who is it? William James, I think,
Yeah.
the psychotherapist said to prove that not all crows are black, you only need one white crow. And so all you need is one kid who gets beamed in the head with a baseball to all of a sudden speak a foreign language fluently. It's like, well, this seems to be a thing.
So the antenna, do you suppose that antenna really was an antenna to a past life?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Oh, that's a really interesting theory. What if he was a Spaniard or he was down in Mexico or that's really fascinating. And the other person, yeah, they're in some life they're a virtuoso,
Yeah.
a violin player.
When I see these situations of some of the music videos or some of the reels that come out when and you see these little kids that are like 7, 8, 9 years, I'm going to say 9 or 10 years old, and they have a voice that just
Mm.
blows you away, and they do they do the mass thing in a mall,
Yeah,
the mass gathering stuff, and all of a sudden this little kid, 9, 10, 11 years old, comes down and they start singing, and you go, where did that voice come from? Or how did they
yeah,
have that ability? And to me, I'm saying, well, who's to say that 3, 4, 5, 600 years ago they weren't
yeah,
that?
yeah.
They were
Maybe,
that, and
yeah.
now I'm just manifesting it faster.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe it took 4 or 5 lifetimes to get to that skill level.
Exactly.
Maybe
Yep.
their first life, they sucked at singing or they sucked at the violin. Yo-Yo Ma started playing violin at the age of 4.
Yeah.
And was pretty damn good at it, apparently. Bruce Lee. How do you
Yep.
get that good at martial arts? And you can do push-ups with your thumb and index finger. Did that take multiple lifetimes to get to that level? And the first lifetime you really sucked at martial arts?
Yeah.
Meryl Streep as an actress, is she just genius at being an actress, or did it take several lifetimes and several different theater troupes, including
Yeah.
all the way back to Shakespeare's time that she started? And she was so bad she was just the understudy who had to mop the floor at the end of the night. And now she's this genius actress. Maybe it takes several lifetimes, or
I mean, I've often felt that, what you see before you right now, Craig, is somebody, and this person is simply the sum total of many lives before.
yeah, yeah,
And, I was brought into this life and I made my choices and honoring Michael Newton's thoughts, and I thoroughly believe them. I'm totally on board with them that I made contracts with myself and said, oh, this is what I want to learn in this life. I want to learn, and you can make it one thing, you can make it six things. But
yeah,
that's why certain things in my way of thinking, and please share some input, but in my way of thinking, the reason why I have these things continually come up is yes, I need to learn the lessons. But why do I
yeah,
need to learn the lesson? It's because I made that contract. And why do
yeah,
we have the relationships that we do? It's because we have that contract in the sense of that person in my life is going to bring this out better than this other person over here.
yeah.
And that's why we're put in with those situations. Uh,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah,
what
well,
you?
I kind of I like to look at it in a similar way. And again, it's going back to the Michael Newton information from thousands of people over decades that this seems to be the way it works. But that, we're put into a soul family, a soul group with your
Right.
soul mates, and you start in the first grade, and you're going all the way to get your master's degree. But and maybe it's a situation where you want to learn, you're here to learn mathematics. Well, in the first grade, you're going to start with 2 + 2 = 4. In the second grade, maybe you'll do some multiple, your times tables, multiplication, and some division. In third grade, long division. And then you're getting into fractions in the fourth grade, all the way to getting your master's degree in mathematics after doing algebra, algebra 2, calculus, trigonometry. And you get your master's degree in those crazy Goodwill Hunting, chalkboard equations that are ridiculous. It's like, well, yeah, you had to grow and grow and grow, and each grade could be a lifetime. And you're learning these basic things of 2 + 2 = 4, of love, of compassion, of empathy. And then you graduate to the second grade, and now you learn a little bit more about it. And maybe you're put in more difficult situations as you get into the seventh grade and eighth grade. And maybe sometimes it doesn't go well, and you need extra tutoring, or you have to repeat a grade, or you have to take summer school, And so, uh, it doesn't mean that just because we go through life, maybe we get it.
Yeah.
Math can be difficult, you know,
Yeah.
and excuse me, and maybe we have to repeat something.
Yep.
Like, well, that relationship I didn't get, that unconditional love means unconditional. So let's try it again, you
Yeah.
know. And yeah, maybe we have to repeat some things, just to get the learning down.
So when we talked initially, we were talking about clinical hypnotherapy is where you started with, and you've moved now more into doing, the work that you do with the Sacred Mystery
Yeah,
Hypnotherapy, I'll call it. And I've talked with some people, and sometimes when I'm working with clients in the area of hypnotherapy, I bring up that, well, the reason why this situation is coming up is it's possible. And I start listing the possibilities. I said, yeah, it could be something from much earlier in this childhood. It could be, relationships. It could be, and then I'll throw in, it could be a past life. And you see their eyes open up.
yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I say, I'm not sure at that stage, at that juncture, I'll usually say something to the effect, I'm not sure if you totally believe or understand that, but I can tell you that there's a lot of information out there that would point, yes, there is a possibility of that. And personally, I believe in it wholeheartedly. And that
Mhm.
being said, and like you can now, and like I can now, we can start listing how many examples would you like this where I've already experienced this with people. I
Yeah.
had one time, Craig, and the person was actually they were in martial arts with me in karate, and we'd go into doing some grappling. And the thing that you did not do, and there were specific instructions from sensei about that, never, never, never touch her neck. Because if you
Oh,
do, she'll lose it and
yeah,
she'll lose all control. Just get out of her way.
yeah,
And that bothered her because she says, I don't like that feeling. I don't like it at all because it just does that to me. And she says, and the other thing, there's a couple of other things that really bother me. And I said, what's that? And she says, well, for whatever reason, smoking. And I said, well, smoking turns a lot of us off. She says, no, but with me, it is a mental thing, and it also relates to some physiological reactions that I get sick, actually
uh,
nauseated.
yeah,
And I said, well, that's interesting. And we would share about that. And I had been doing hypnotherapy, and we discussed it. And I said, you really want to find out what's going on with that? She says, yeah, I really would. And I said, and I mentioned about hypnotherapy, brought her under hypnotherapy. And to make a long story short, the reason why she really didn't like anybody to touch her throat is under hypnotherapy and moving into the life between lives, I was having her go into that space, where just before you die, and you move into that
yeah,
space of what's going on and what's happening. In that moment, she saw somebody holding her underwater,
uh,
smoking a cigarette and strangling her.
good Lord.
And that left an imprint. And that was not obviously it's not this life. It killed her.
Yeah, yeah,
And we went through that, and worked with her, worked through the trauma of that, and you've mentioned it in your information that you've got out there that it really can heal past traumas. And do you know, after we got through that hypnotherapy session, you could touch her neck all day long,
yeah, yeah.
and
It's fascinating. Yeah.
yeah, and she could get around people that smoked, and you still don't like it, but it didn't
Well,
it
yeah, I know.
didn't it didn't nauseate her.
Yeah,
So it's amazing what this stuff does.
yeah, yeah. It's amazing we hold on to it in that way. One of the kind of metaphors I use, analogies I use, is that it's sort of like if you're in your town, you have a community theater group, and it's
Mm,
like 8, 9 actors who who've created this theater group, and they've planned out the first play they're going to do in the year. And they know they're going to do six different plays during the year, and their first one's going to be this one. They choose what parts people are going to play, and here are the costumes we're going to use, and here's how these characters are going to learn and grow during this play. So by the end of the play, there are these different people that have grown and have developed as characters, and here's who's going to play what part. And people have to get into the mood and what's my motivation, and then they do the play, and then they take a break, and then they do an entirely different play, and here's who's going to play what part. And maybe in the first play, I was with a husband and wife with somebody, but now we're going to be friends, and now we're going to be employer and employee in a different one, and we're going to be mother and son in a different one, and we're going to switch genders, and that's going to be interesting. So I can learn how to, be a more feminine role and that kind of stuff. Well, let's say in that first play, I get all dramatic and I get all actory and I jump off the couch in a very dramatic move, but I roll my ankle and I sprain my ankle. Well, I got to be on crutches for the rest of that play because I sprained my ankle. And play ends, take a little bit of break, and now we're doing the next play. Well, my ankle hasn't healed entirely, and so now I'm on crutches with a sprained ankle in the new play. It has nothing to do with the new play. It has nothing to do with my character. Shouldn't be on crutches. But I've brought it with me from a different experience, from a different life. And okay, it may not be the greatest analogy in the world, the greatest
No, I
metaphor,
think it's pretty good, really.
but you can kind of see how even not only physical issues, but the mental and emotional issues that we may bring with us, especially if it's a last minute kind of a murder. How horrid is that?
Mm,
And to have that imprinted upon your soul, upon your spirit. And that's why with Michael Newton's work, it was so important to do the healing up in the spirit world.
mm,
To do that life between lives healing up there,
yeah.
because then you can direct and help facilitate them going to the healing space, doing the healing they need to do. I opened up my book, the Past Lives Guidebook, with the story of a client I worked with. We were doing a past life regression, and that moved into the spirit world, into life between lives. And I always take people to the healing place, and whether the work that they've signed up to do during our session is for healing or just maybe discovery and insights. I always take them to the healing place to do healing known and unknown. And that's a bit of a private thing during the work we're doing during the past life regression, during spirit world. We're having a conversation while that person's in the trance state to
Mm,
get more information for the recording so they can listen to it later, but also just kind of guide them through their experience. Because sometimes, especially you get to spirit world, it's pleasant. It's very nice. And you don't want to get out of the jacuzzi. You just want to sit in there. It's like, okay, yes, I understand it's pleasant. We need to move this forward, and we need to go to the healing place, or we need
but
to
I
go
like it
past.
here.
Yeah, I like it here. I
But I
want to hang
just,
with my friends. So I
I
know
just,
you do, but we need to go to the healing place. We need to go to the current life viewing room. We have a lot to do. So you have a lot. You have a whole sheet of questions here that need to get answered. So let's move it along, and that's what that's all about. To have a facilitator. And what's fascinating about that work is 2 minutes can seem like 200 years. 200 years can seem like 2 minutes, and so you can manipulate time when there is no time. And okay, we'll sit up for another minute in the jacuzzi and pretend that it's 100 years. And now you're all pruny and you need to get out. And so um, she went to the healing space and did her healing work. And it took a bit. And whether it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, I give people the time. I encourage, I check in. But it's a private thing that they're doing. One thing I always have them do is pull the cords. And yes, I get that there's probably not real cords attached to their bodies because they have no bodies in spirit world. And whether the healing is done with light or energy or some sort of spiritual healing or water is involved, yes, I get it. There's probably not water up in life between lives, but the brain needs some sort of symbolism and metaphor to hold on to help accomplish this. So it's attached to this current life, sort of like bringing in all this 5D information into this 3D brain of ours. So it has to make accommodations. So maybe water is used or light is used or something else. Well, anyway, she was doing the pulling of the cords and took some time to do that. And finally, she says, I'm complete. And we moved on to the next thing. And I always check in with people a few days later. just how are you doing? Have any questions? Let me know. Make sure you got the recording, all that stuff. And she writes me back. It's like 3 days later. She says, the 20 years of chronic hip pain I've had is gone. And I didn't know she had hip pain. She hadn't mentioned it. She just lives with it. She'd been to all the doctors. She's had the MRIs and the X-rays and the physical therapy, and there's nothing wrong with her hip. Yes, she has this chronic hip pain, and for 20 years. And she said when she was up in the healing place, and I mentioned cutting, pulling the cords, like you're pulling out the blender cord from the plug in the wall. She said she had a big one on her hip and she couldn't get it out. And so she asked her guide to come help her. Guide couldn't do it. And so this is why it was taking a bit of time, unbeknownst to me. So she asked all the healing beings that were in the healing space, and he did one of those tug of war things where they're all lined up pulling on this cord. And eventually they all pulled it out. Pain was gone. She wasn't even entirely sure what the cord represented. It's just
Didn't
that she pulled the cord, the healing happened, and she was without pain for the first time in 20 years. And I had no idea. She did that on her own and with the help of her guides. And so this is the power of this. So your story, this story is pretty extraordinary what can happen. And that's not everybody's experience, of course, but it's pretty extraordinary what can happen and the insights and discoveries you can get to resolve not only, mindset issues around love, relationships, wealth, abundance, parenting, but also maybe even physical issues as well.
So do you do virtual, or do you do Zoom, or do you do one-on-one? How do you work with people, Craig?
Uh, Generally, it's virtual, and that's why I felt I could move more into the spiritual side again. It's like being so close to Sedona and even maybe Scottsdale, Arizona. It's like there's a lot of people who are getting a lot of attention for this work, and it was hard to like jump up and down and wave my hands and say, well, me too. I love doing this work and I love helping people. But since people are so um, willing to do virtual sessions because of the comfort, because of the ability to just relax in their own homes, feeling safe in their homes. Again, even though research shows that Zoom sessions actually may work better than in person, whether it's talk therapy or hypnotherapy or something else. And so most of my work is virtual, and not to brag, maybe to brag a little bit, but been working with people around the world, and they're usually Americans around the world, but I've worked with people in Austria and Italy and Bulgaria. I'm working right now with a professional basketball player in Lithuania, of all places. It's American, but he's in the European League. Same with a guy in literally was a basketball player in Iceland. He's now in France on a team in France. And the guy who was originally in the basketball player in Iceland got my name from his friend who lives in Puerto Rico. Who I also work with somebody in Tahiti. And again, it's not to brag, but so much as to show you the power of this work. And
So
some of those sessions are, not only clinical hypnotherapy where we're dealing with some serious issues of childhood trauma, but also past life regression work too. It's
is that
it's it's you're the one doing the work. I'm not here to fix anybody. And hypnotherapy in and of itself doesn't really fix anybody. It's a tool to help you fix yourself. I can
it,
help facilitate, I can move things along, but it's your intention. I can't control you. And that's what's fascinating about this work. And I think although, unfortunately, some of the misconceptions and myths around this work, this isn't control. This is mind control.
right?
In fact, most of the people I work with are already out of control.
Yeah.
They're dealing with anxiety. They're dealing with anger. They're literally having panic attacks. Like their nervous system gets so out of whack. They're having panic attacks. That's how out of control they are. This is a way to give them back that control. So
Yeah.
this is mind control, and I can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. I can't make anybody have a past life regression. I can't make anybody quit smoking. That would be a great superpower. Just go to Las Vegas casinos and just snappy and wave my hands and everybody quits smoking.
Oof.
I could go into prisons and hypnotize everybody to be law-abiding, upstanding citizens and close down the prison systems. I could
Doesn't work that
hypnotize
way.
my way into the UN, the United
Doesn't
Nations,
doesn't work that
hypnotize
way.
everybody for world peace. But
So
I'd hypnotize Elon Musk to write me $1 billion check.
yeah.
But and even like the shows. I think a lot of people get tripped up with those Las Vegas shows and say, oh well, people they'll make you sing like Michael Jackson and sing like Elvis Presley and dance like Fred Astaire and bark like dogs and quack like ducks. And it's like, well, everybody that gets up on that stage, assuming they're not faking it, assuming it's not the local improv troupe, but everybody that gets up on that stage volunteered to be up there. You know,
Yep.
the person, the hypnotist, the person running the show, they're not going to pick the introvert in the back of the room who's sinking down in their chair trying to hide in the shadows. They're picking the extrovert exhibitionist who's jumping up and down, waiting, pick me, pick me, pick me. I want to be up there. I want to be the star of the show.
Yep.
Who's going to give a better performance?
Yeah.
And look at them at the end of the show. They all have a big smile on their face because they wanted to. I don't want to do that.
They're going to want it. They're going to do what they would normally do in their natural life.
Yeah,
And
and they just want to
you
have
know,
some fun.
you know, I,
People
I,
get up and do karaoke. I don't want to do karaoke. I want a bunch of people staring at me while I warble and sing off key, and I don't want to do that. That sounds awful. But there's a
how
lot
do
of people
you,
who love karaoke. You know,
how do you know that someone is under hypnosis if you're on a Zoom call?
it's generally their facial expressions because I'm obviously seeing them. It's video. Back, when we're touching people and hugging people and shaking hands and things, you could do the kind of wrist drop and various
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
But is generally watching breathing patterns.
Mm-hmm.
If the camera is close enough, you can kind of see the eye movement moving around. But it's generally doing the various inductions that will that work biologically and
Right.
not just the kind of the magic phrases and things, but things like, closing your eyes and rolling them up so like you're looking up above your eyebrows. That helps to the vagus nerves attached to the eyeballs. There's something about rolling your eyes up and looking up that moves you into a more relaxed state,
Yeah.
slowing down the breathing, having the 10, 9, because you're kind of wanting to bore them into it too, just like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That
Yeah.
movie, the teacher bores them into a hypnagogic trance state.
Yep.
And so there's all the little inductions that you can do, but mainly it's a lot of the Milton Erickson kind of hypnosis speak, the Ericksonian speak
Mm-hmm.
of allowing them and their subconscious mind to take them deeper because they want to is the main
Right.
way.
Yeah.
I can't certainly you can work with somebody having a panic attack in an airport under fluorescent lights with all these people around, but it's nicer when they're lying back in a comfortable chair, whether it's in person or over Zoom. They're in a comfortable place or lying down, and that in and of itself will tell the body it's time to relax.
Yeah.
And they have a certain expectation that when they close their eyes and they hear my hypnotist voice of you are moving into a relaxed state and I'm going down in my pitch and I'm doing all that there's an expectation that, yeah, this is when I'm supposed to be doing the
Yeah.
work. If they are kind of nervous about it and feel that some people would say, well, I don't think I'd be hypnotized. I tried it before and it didn't work. I can't meditate yet. They're kind of a little anxious about it. I'll send them recordings beforehand to practice with my voice. So
Mm.
now that, they're used to relaxing to the sound of my voice. Of course, if it's in person, it's a little bit easier to see their breathing patterns and their facial muscles relax. But it's you know not only can you get him to the trance state where he can do this deeper healing work of maybe trauma relief, the more clinical side of hypnotherapy, but get them into a state where they can tap into that higher self and do this deeper spiritual work too, past life regression and life between lives. I think we all have the ability to do it. I know the academics like their tests and say, well, you're not able to do hypnosis because you're part of the 10% who can never do it. It's like, well, now you just hypnotize them that they can't, you know, be hypnotized. And what I think is funny is people say, I can't be hypnotized. I've tried it several times and I know I can't be hypnotized. Therefore, this isn't going to work. It's like, that sounds like hypnosis to me. It sounds like you
Yeah.
just hypnotize yourself not to be hypnotized.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're doing it perfectly well.
Sounds like you're
You might be
great.
able to do this better than the other person. So there's your Ericksonian stuff. And I was like, well, you might be able to do this better than other people now that you know that you can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one of the things that you had mentioned earlier when we were talking, you're given the example of the lady pulling the cords,
Yeah,
and we talk about how even my example, you talked about trauma and working through trauma. I think the stuff that I worked with mostly were probably the areas that you like as well. It's probably categorized in two areas. One is trauma, the other one is spirituality. And of those two, I prefer spirituality, but sometimes they go hand in hand.
mm,
Um, that said, I think it's interesting that so they pulled the cord and everybody got together and it was just resisting and finally
yeah,
it gave up and it pulled. She didn't tell you about the hip pain, but all of a sudden it's gone. I'm leading up to this.
yeah.
The thing that's interesting to me and would love your feedback on it, is it all that important for somebody to know the details that created a trauma? Is it that important to know that, or is it better to be released from the trauma?
I think it's up to what the person feels will be most healing for them.
Okay, so you think
Certainly,
that
I've done a lot of this work of hypnotherapy, whether it's present life, current life work, or past life work, life between these lives works, non-contextually, meaning it was a cord on my hip. I pulled it out, and now my pain's gone. Well, what did the cord represent? I'm not really sure. I don't think I was supposed to know. It's like, okay,
there, that's what I
yep,
wanted. That's what I wanted to
yeah,
get at. Is if you don't need to know, you don't need to know, and that's okay.
yeah,
But if you really want to know, then maybe employ the use of your spirit guides or go into your subconscious. And if you want to have help from a hypnotherapist to maybe bring you to that place, if curiosity is just killing you to find out, then do that. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't mean you failed. It just means that you really don't need to know.
yeah, yeah. And I've had my in my own personal work. I'll try to be brief about this because I could probably go on for hours and hours. But two two healing experiences that I was really unsure what they were about or how they happened. And one was just a spontaneous kind of past life experience I was having with a friend over the phone. It was just over a phone, and we had reconnected after many years. This a really good friend I had, and we were talking on the phone, and we would get for hours. We talked for hours, and we would get into these meditative silences over the phone.
Hmm.
And we did one of these meditative silences over the phone after this kind of deep connecting work we'd been doing for weeks that I was kind of unsure about because I wasn't quite sure what was going on. There seemed to be a lot of stuff happening. I know I'm being vague because I'm not really clear on what was going on, other than it seemed to be I seemed to have been the last piece to this, some sort of puzzle that these people needed to get together to do a healing work. So maybe like, the horn sound went off and it was like Avengers gather, and we all kind of gathered together to do this healing work, and then we all broke apart. And I seem to have been the last piece of that puzzle for whatever reason. And she was getting these dreams of this kind of World War II experience, and again, long and involved, but she was kind of getting bits and pieces of it over the course of weeks and weeks. And I was just like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. That seems kind of weird and strange, and I don't get it. And I was skeptical, and I'm skeptical about a bunch of stuff. And I was like, I wasn't really sure. Like, you do you, I guess. And we were having this, had this long conversation, and we were kind of doing this silent meditative thing. And then she says, "Okay, well, I gotta go." And all of a sudden, I just start crying, sobbing hysterically. And she's like, "Are you okay?" She's like, and I start to saying, "I can't find you. I can't find you. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where you are." And she doesn't know what's going on. And there's one part of me that's having this experience of releasing, like through tears and through sobbing, this emotional trauma, and another part of my brain saying, "I don't know what's happening. This isn't me." And and finally she realizes what I'm experiencing is related to her dreams of the World War II thing. And finally she says, "Do you need me to forgive you?" And I say, "Yes." And then she says, okay, well, I forgive you. That wasn't your fault. And I was just like,
Wow.
and I was just like, and I'm like, I have no idea what that was. She's like, yeah, that was kind of wild. And then that was it. And it all kind of fell apart after that. It was like it just seemed like we got together like this Avengers gather, and we all got together, and because there's like somebody calling from Romania, and all his other friends kind of came together, and it's like everybody seemed to have their part, and then it just all blew apart. It was weird and strange, and so maybe you're not supposed to know. Maybe you're just here to play your part, because another aspect, really quickly, of I was doing some ancestral healing. And there's a really wonderful book, Ancestral Medicine by Daniel Foor, Foor. He has a website too, ancestralmedicine.net.org, one of those, and lots of wonderful classes and things. But I got to working with that, and Craig Meriwether, you don't get more English, Scottish, Irish than that. And I think it was something like 90% of my DNA, my ancestry is United Kingdom. And first Meriwether that came to the New World was in 1650, and so my family built this country and all that that means, in
Yeah.
terms of plantations in Virginia in the South, and the my dad was big time into genealogy starting in the late 50s, early 60s, and we got a lot of census reports with a lot of slaves counted,
Yeah.
and so my family hurt a lot of people. My family created a lot of pain for people.
Mm.
And and so I guess whatever my intuition, I don't get a lot of visions. I'm not or tele I'm not clairvoyant or clairaudient or anything. I just kind of download things, and I wish I saw the trumpets and the rainbows and the unicorns, but I don't. I kind of download information. I get those little intuition taps on the shoulder, and I say, I need to do this ancestral healing. I was reading Daniel Foor's work and doing some of his classes, and my father was able to not him, but the whole Meriwether kind of genealogy club that got formed. They've been able to trace the Meriwethers back to the 1500s, which is pretty extraordinary. I know a lot of people haven't been able to do that, but we got all the way back 1500s, and I kind of connected in a spiritual guide way with my great 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 grandfather from the early 1600s, and we seem to be the two lightning rods,
Mm.
and we're going to heal, like goalposts. Maybe that's even a better way to put it, goalposts, and we're going to heal all the football field in between
Mm.
us. And I thought, okay, this is exciting because I'm kind of downloading this again, getting this information. This is going to be exciting. I get to participate, and I get to be, well, I'll pat my ego. I get to be a big deal, and I get to help in this situation. And so, finally got to the point where I'm going to do this meditative healing work, and I just kind of sit, and then it was like done. I'm like, done? Why? I haven't started. What? It's like, no, that was a. You just need to be the goalpost with your feet on the ground, and
Wow.
it's like, oh. And it was sort of like we needed two goalposts, and we're gonna the energy healed within them, try to create some healing around our line and the people we had. But I really didn't have anything to do with it. I was just kind of like the bookend here in 20 back when I was doing it 2023, and it was a little disappointing because I wanted to be the star of the show and I wanted to be shiny and bright, but it was just like I was just one aspect
You were the
of
conduit.
what needed to have to happen. And I wasn't, it was sort of like I was the corporal. You need to know basis only. Well, you didn't need to know how it happened or why it happened or how it happened. We needed an energy uh, grounding on Earth. You were chosen for that. Thank you. Have a nice time at the movies later tonight. That was kind of it. I was like, oh, it felt done. It felt cleared. It took all of 60 seconds. And I was like, well, I wasn't a part, I was kind of disappointed because I wanted rainbows and unicorns and spotlights and lightning bolts and archangels with trumpets. And it didn't happen that way.
But you were the catalyst.
There's like that other experience with my friend on the phone. I was some bit player or cameo or that needed to be grounded to help that healing. I didn't
You-
understand it. I didn't know why it happened. I didn't know even, probably 20% of what was going on, but I played my role. Maybe that was set up beforehand. Maybe made contracts to do these two pieces of big work. And now I just, okay, well, have fun, go to the movies, read a book, do whatever, you know, go on podcasts. I don't know. And I gotta tell you, I mean, it was a bit little, disappointing because again, I wanted to be the shiny and bright, star of the show, but that's not my role.
Well, maybe
And
you were the bright and shiny in the ethereal, and you just
yeah, maybe.
show up
Well,
there. Yeah,
the goalposts are painted gold, so
yeah,
maybe that was
yeah,
it. But it was just I had a role to play,
yeah,
and maybe I wasn't the colonel and I wasn't the general. I was the corporal or the sergeant or something, but I had a role to play that was important.
and that's okay.
Didn't understand it entirely,
Yep.
but I made some sort of agreement or some sort of contract to play my role, and I played my role, and well, maybe I just help other people. I guess I don't know.
There you
Till
go.
something else comes up, I guess. Yeah.
What we've covered a lot of material, and poof.
Yeah, it's already, yeah, time up.
Yeah. What do you do to create a better life for yourself, Craig?
I love studying this stuff.
Okay.
I tell you, like 99% of the reason the Past Lives Guidebooks exist because of those questions I wanted answered.
Hmm.
What is going on in the brain? And what I want to learn more about time and memory and consciousness. And boy, there's a whole this thing about remote viewing. What's that all
Mm-hmm.
about? The government research into that. And then I thought, well, a great way to promote and get your name out there and all that stuff, blah, 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 is to write a book. And I just like, here are the questions I want answered. Because not only am I a true believer in all this, I'm a big skeptic too.
Hmm.
And that just kind of the way I grew up. And there were, as I expand my mind, my heart, as I learn more, I accept more and I learn more and understand more. But I still like, people say things, that whole situation with my friend, that was only a few years ago. That wasn't when I was like 16 or anything, when I
Yeah.
don't know anything. That was a full-blown adult.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't get what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. I'll support you, but I don't get it. And I don't even know if I believe it. And so I'm a true believer and a true skeptic all at the same time. And so this book was part of me learning more about all this work. And that helps me. It helps ground me. It helps center me. Certainly in terms of my other work I do, I love doing qigong. I love the movement meditation of qigong and prayer and things like that. But I love reading and I love studying more. And I just told myself a few months ago I banned myself from buying any more books because I have to read what I have.
How's that working for you?
I literally bought a new book last week, so it's not going well. But that's what I love. It energizes me, and it's like there's more stuff to learn. You
So you
know?
have you've got your website.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Sacred Mystery Hypnotherapy is probably the best way to find me. I know that's a bit of a mouthful. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. So if you just Google Flagstaff hypnosis, you'll find Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, and you'll see me.
Okay.
There, and that's just find the form to email me or give me a ring, and
So
happy to chat with you.
I just did a quickie here. It's Sacred Mystery Hypnotherapy. Is that what we want to
Yeah,
do?
yeah,
Okay.
sacredmysteryhypnotherapy.com. The book is Past Lives Guidebook. You can find it on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Is there any other things you want to leave with our folks listening today?
I don't know. I will leave with the folks, but I'm just fascinated, Kevin, that not only are we wearing blue plaid shirts, wearing glasses. I see I don't know, is this going out on video? Are people seeing this on video?
No,
Okay, well, unfortunately, because right up above you is your tree, and if you see down below on my left
I
is
see
my
it.
little tree, and I'm been
Well,
searching your room for a
uh,
hummingbird.
well,
So,
I was just going to say she's in the other room.
oh, okay, well, there you go. I was
My
stunned when
my thing
you
my thing is it here? Well, no. Mine is my red-tailed hawk is a medicine bird of mine, and the wolf, typically the timber wolf, is very special to me. But
Yeah.
hummingbird, yeah, definitely too. But
Well, and
like I said,
you kept mentioning Druidry too, and that fascinates me too. It's one of the things on my next to my bed that I'm going to be looking into. I do a bit of tarot. I do it for myself, but I have the Druidcraft deck,
okay,
uh,
that's
which
Philip
is really
Cargam.
yeah, yeah. So it's I've
Yeah,
read. I love that. I want to learn more about that deck. But
yeah.
yeah, it's just fascinating meeting you. We seem to have a little bit more in common than my usual podcast experience.
Oops. Yeah. Well, Craig, this has been great. I really do
Yeah,
appreciate your time today. And
yeah, yeah. It was fun
I,
time with you, Kevin.
yeah, and I'm going to say maybe go out there in the dimly light areas of Flagstaff and enjoy the stars today.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks to Craig Meriwether for sharing and opening the doorway into the spiritual side of hypnotherapy. Truly is magical, isn't it? You may connect with Craig through his website, sacredmysteryhypnotherapy.com. There's a link in the show notes for your convenience. As always, a very special thanks to you as well, dear listener, for tuning in. Remember, if you're seeking insights and advice on how to create a better life for yourself, and if you'd like to dive into self-care, self-development, experience hypnotherapy, distant shamanic work, Reiki, drop me a line, kevin@towardaBetterLife.com, and we'll talk about your free discovery call. In that call, we can discuss your goals, set some plans for achieving them, and moving forward with your journey toward a better life. You can also visit my website, towardaBetterLife.com, for past episodes, blog entries, ways to enhance your spiritual journey, and upcoming events. Please subscribe to the program through your favorite podcast platform and leave a review on Apple, Spotify, and Overcast, or whatever podcast platform you might be using. This helps to spread the word about Toward a Better Life and helps to create a better life for us all. Always remember, if you'd like to share your story, music, or prose, or if you want to be my guest, just write to me, kevin@towardabetterlife.com, and I'll give you the details. Until next week, enjoy your magical journey toward a better life.